Hey everybody, welcome back to Spooky Things with Debbie. It's going to be a really interesting subject tonight. We are going to be talking about the um, Beast of Bray Road. Um, this guy's really fascinating. There are there's lots of lore. There's lots of talk about it, lots of legends about him. Getting my notes ready here. But it's called the Beast of Bray Road. Now, this is up in Wisconsin, and I'm trying to get my camera's up here, so I don't look up here. I look here. Um, and I know people are like, "What is she looking at?" I'm actually looking right at who I would be looking at right here, but the camera is up here, so stay with me on that. So anyway, so when I'm looking here, I'm looking right at you guys. That's what I'm doing. So anyway, over here I'm looking at my notes. So anyway, the the Beast of Bray Road has been around for a very long time, and but in actuality, he's really made more of a comeuppance. Actually, more in a modern kind of a times. Although sightings have gone back for years. So when I'm over here and I'm looking here, I'm looking at my notes here of everything that because when I do these shows, I do a lot of research into what I'm telling you guys because I don't want to BS you guys with stuff that has no foundation to it or just Debbie's opinion. No. I research into this and I'm very careful about what I relay back into for you guys to make sure that it is the most updated information that we can possibly get on the subject on an issue. Okay, so this is why I have all my notes here. Okay, so let's go into this right away. The Beast of Bray Road. He's one of the most compelling modern cryptid legends. Um, Compared to things that go way back. He's been around for a while, but in the more modern times is when he's become more and more um, visible to people. He gained some significant traction in the late 1980s and into the early 1990s. So this is very recent where a lot of things have occurred. It's a perfect it's a perfect subject for people who are wanting to know about things that are on a more modern scale. It's like, well, I don't really want to hear about something that happened many years ago. What's going on actively right now in our environment right now? And this is one of those phenomenons that is occurring at this point in time that people are citing him. So the center basically centers around on or around Bray Road. It's a quiet stretch of farmland near Elkhorn, Wisconsin. The sightings do date back as far as 1936, although that's not all that far. My mom was born in 1936. Yeah, it was like 80 something years ago. But the stories really took a big gust and took off in about 1989 and 1990 when several locals reported encounters with a creature that didn't fit the description of any of the known local wildlife. The basic description of him is he's not like a regular dog looking kind of a thing because there's that, oh, he's dog like. He's not really that dog like when you get down to it. Um, but he exhibits humanoid characteristics. So basically, he's a massive creature, very muscular. He's canine, and he's often described as weighing between 400 and 600 pounds. I don't know about you, but I don't know any dog that looks like it weighs between 400 and 600 pounds. But it's got grayish brown or black fur. It's got a wolfman stance, a werewolf kind of a stance. It's frequently seen running on all fours, but it's capable of standing and walking on its hind legs. The facial features is glowing orange or yellow eyes and a pointed upright ears. So to me, he sounds more like a werewolf versus a dog. The behavior is often spotted he's kneeling or crouching on the side of the road, sometimes appearing to eat roadkill or holding the food, the roadkill, with his front paws. They say he kind of looks like a primate when he's eating the way he's eating it. There have been several people who have been eyewitnesses to this particular creature. One, her name is Lori Endrizzi, 1989. She's got perhaps the most famous sighting. She saw the creature on the side of the road and described it as looking like a man wolf with a heavy build, and he was kneeling like a human. Scott Bray, in 1990, he found strange giant footprints on his property and later saw a creature that he described as a huge, powerful dog. Um, in the media, Linda Godfrey, who's a reporter for the Walworth County Week, began investigating these claims. What started as a local interest story turned into her best selling book, The Beast of Bray Road. And that pretty much cemented its name in cryptid history. So from that point on, he's like, okay, he's it. He's in the books. So there's several theories and explanations about this creature. Um, One theory is they call him the dog man. Many believe it is a North American dog man, a distinct cryptid separate from werewolves because it doesn't transform from a human. It, it it's just it's in his figure and he doesn't change. Um, Indra Daris. Some research point to Native American legends of shapeshifters or protective spirits tied to the Wisconsin mounds. And mounds, by the way, a lot of Native Americans, especially during that period of time, were mound builders, which means that they would bury their dead and make mounds out of it and bury their dead in mounds. Mange afflicted bear. Now, I've seen a mange afflicted bear, and I don't know. I don't. I don't know. Just from what I've seen of it, I wouldn't think that, but you don't know. Skeptics argue that a large bear with a severe case of mange can look terrifyingly thin, upright, and monstrous. Oh, they look monstrous. I tell you that right now. I mean, it looks like something really bizarre. Bears, when they don't have that fur on them, they're not as huge as they are with their fur. So it really puts a lot of depth to them and a lot of density to them just by looking at them with fur. Once the fur is gone, it's got a completely different look to them. Then there's something called the Shunka Warakan. It's an Iowa term for carrying off dogs. Some suggest it's a prehistoric remnant of a hyena-like mammal. Um, which is a really good possibility. Remember, Nature adapts and changes all the time. So when as soon as you see something, you say, "Oh, that can't be." Actually, it could because of all the changes that go on as we live and breathe every day. There's adaptations that begin to happen or change or whatever. So there's different angles. Now, what I'm also going to do tonight is we're going to tie in a lot of what we've spoken about before. We're going to go into um, remember back when we talked about the stone tape theory. I don't know if some of you can remember that. It wasn't that long ago. It was just like a couple, 3, 4 weeks ago. We just spoke about the stone tape theories. And this is where we're saying that rocks can actually absorb energy. Well, this we know to be true anyway. But what can occur when this kind of a thing happens, what happens with limestone, sandstone, actual geological things that can create things that are paranormal, with the lack of a better way of putting it. So we're going to blend all this tonight. So it might make a little bit more sense with this blending in a bit. Um, so the geological connection here, the stone tape theory, some investigators look for links between cryptid hotspots and limestone or high iron deposits in the soil, which relates to the stone tape theories. A 1936 night watchman. This was the earliest recorded sighting by a night watchman at St. Coletta's Covenant, who claimed to see a dark, hairy creature digging in an ancient Indian burial mound. And also it comes into question of what makes Wisconsin so prevalent. Why is it just basically the Bray Road? What makes Wisconsin this hotspot for this particular animal, this creature? And we're going to, see if we can kind of figure some things out as to what could be causing a lot of this. So it's an intersection between geological and paranormal. And that's what makes this case so fascinating, because it's got so many different avenues that can lead up to it and branch off from it. Um, let's talk about the geological connection, since we're already, it's called also the battery theory, just like it was the stone tape theory. This is called the battery theory. And that's the idea that certain minerals act as a natural recording medium, going back to stone tape, or an energy amplifier. When people discuss the Beast of Bray Road or other Wisconsin anomalies, three specific geological factors often come up. And these are going to sound familiar to you guys from the stone tape. Limestone and quartz. Now, we've already discussed the limestone and quartz and how really specific that they are, with a lot of paranormal activity. There appears that there's a lot of limestone and quartz that are on the grounds. And we've often wondered, does that have something to do with this? Um, Now, interestingly, Wisconsin, sorry, I don't know why the dog's whining. Wisconsin sits on a massive deposits of limestone and dolomite. Proponents of the stone tape theory suggest that these minerals, particularly when combined with quartz, can absorb or record intense energy or trauma, replaying it like a looped recording. This could explain why sightings happened in the same specific location over decades. And it's interesting because there's hotels that have been built around streams. Streams, of course, as we know, water is a conductor as well. But a lot of the rocks inside the stream, a lot of them are limestone, iron ore, all these things, and all of these are thought to be conductors or amplifiers. And it just seems like there's so many cases of heightened paranormal activity, and these substances are there. It's like it's not even coincidental anymore. It's like it's just occurring. Iron deposits, we were just talking about. Iron-rich soil can interact with the Earth's magnetic field. Some researchers believe that the fluctuations in geomagnetic activity, sometimes triggered by solar flares or shifting tectonic stress, can create thin spots in reality or cause hallucinations in the temporal lobe of the human brain. So this goes into, now we're not just including paranormal suspicions. We're actually going into physiological changes in the brain itself, in the temporal lobe itself, which can create hallucinations. So this is encompassing so many more areas. The deeper that you get into it, it's expanding out more and more and more. So it's not just this one little situation. Now all of a sudden, it's like there's a lot of things that are combined that's creating this. The glacial driftless area. While much of Wisconsin was flattened by glaciers, the driftless area, which is in the southwest, remains untouched. This created a rugged, ancient landscape full of deep caves and sinkholes, providing a prehistoric habitat that theorists argue could hide creatures that went extinct everywhere else. Now, that to me sounds very reasonable because nature finds a way. And when you look at something being of a hostile environment to an animal that had been around for years and years and years, they gravitate towards where they just naturally can live out a life untouched. Animals don't want to be around people. Who can blame them? I mean, think about it. They want to be able to grow, to reproduce, to raise their young, to where they don't have to be concerned about all this other crap going on in the human world. They stay away from it as much as they can. In a situation like this right here, I can completely understand where animals that are cryptid will gravitate towards something like this because this has been in existence for beginning of time, this kind of an area right here. And these animals could have remained the same for all these years. Nobody has ever seen it. Nobody's seen them because it's so away from everybody. They're being left alone. They're not being hunted. They're not anything like that. They're living in a natural environment privy to only them. God love them. I think that would definitely, that this is something I would lean towards right here. Um, Wisconsin is often cited as the window area. a geographical hotspot where the veil between the known and the unknown seems thinner. Now, remember we were talking about the mounds, Native American mounds, ancient earthworks, and effigy mounds. Wisconsin has the highest concentration of effigy mounds in North America, which was earthworks built in the shapes of animals like panthers, bears, birds, things like that. Many sightings of the Beast of Bray Road occur near these mounds. Local legends often suggest these sites are anchors for spiritual or physical entities, creating a cultural and energetic link to the land that dates back thousands of years. The Wisconsin Triangle. Similar to the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts, Wisconsin has its own zone of very high strangeness. This area, often spanning from Elkhorn, Bray Road, to Madison and up to Sturgeon Bay, is a magnet for several occurrences. One is UFO sightings, notably in the 1950 sightings in Belleville. UFO sightings have been notoriously known to be hot around areas of excessive paranormal activity. It seems like they're almost they almost coincide with each other. Whether UFOs are attracted to that kind of energy or whether the UFOs can create that kind of energy. They're very often seen together in the same area or even at the same time. Lake monsters like Pepe in Lake Pepin or Rocky in Rock Lake. Uh, let's see. If we function through a series of electrical impulses, do you think the surge in AI days centers in AI days centers that will use a ton of electricity could capture or awake lost souls of energy caught in limbo? Yes. We're still talking about the energy. And that's really the key word of it all is the energy. Different ways that can get created, data. Um, and again, this is going, I don't know if, whoever this person is here that I'm speaking to, I don't know if you remember the stone tape theories, but these are coinciding along with that these are like transmitters and receptors. So there's so much that's going on geologically that's connected to these sites that it's mind staggering when you really do the research into it. That was an amazingly good question, but the answer is yes. Um, and okay, Native American legends like man bats and water panthers. Eh, we have some of those around here too. Um, and we'll kind of touch in on that around here. Like I live in an area in North Florida. It's called Mariana, the Jackson County area, and it's known for quite a bit of folklore and legends around this area too. One very, very similar to what we're talking about here. So it's going to be interesting to see if could they be one and the same. Obviously, not the same animal itself, but the same species or the same genus, whatever. Could they have a relation? And if they do, how could this one over here up in Wisconsin and this one day here in Florida, how many are along the road in between the two? You know, there has to be. So the whole thing is going to like fold together one day. Could be coming up soon here, really, the way things are going. The water table plays into effect on this. The state is defined by its water, the Great Lakes, thousands of inland lakes, and deep aquifers. Sounds like Florida. The movement of water through limestone caverns beneath the surface could theoretically generate static or electromagnetic energy, fueling the activity reported on the surface. That is very similar to the terrain of North Florida. We have a lot of caverns here. Limestone is all over the place. Coral, coral as well is, although we don't really have the coral up here like we do down in South Florida, but still that's a big factor in it. But the aquifers, running water underground, aquifers are a huge hit in a lot of these things. And around where I live at, they're everywhere. I mean, it's amazing. And we do have sightings of a very, very similar thing here. We'll go into that. Um, if you explore the idea that geology acts as a battery, it changes the beast from a biological animal into something potentially tied to the earth itself. There's a word, it's called tulpa, which, or a manifestation of the area's ancient history. Tulpas. We'll get into that. It's Native American in background. The theory that the Beast of Bray Road and cryptids like it could be a tulpa moves into the realm of, I hope I'm not slaughtering this word, psionics, and collective consciousness. Now, we were talking about collective conscious just, what was it, last week? The week before? I lose track of my shows. I've done so many of them. But consciousness is something that I've been doing a lot of research on as well. And it's amazing how many things like this now get tied into the collective consciousness. In Tibetan mysticism, a tulpa is an object or being that is created through sheer spiritual or mental willpower. In a modern paranormal context, it's the idea that if enough people believe in fear or focus on a specific concept, that concept can actually manifest in the physical world. And here, this is the reason why the tulpa theory fits the Beast of Bray Road so well. The first thing about it is the feedback of the feedback loop of media. Before 1989, sightings in Elkhorn were sporadic and often dismissed. However, once the local newspapers and later national shows began reporting on the werewolf, the sightings skyrocketed. So the mechanism of this is thousands of people began driving down Bray Road specifically looking for this monster. So the theory of it is that the massive influx of human expectancy and fear might have acted as a psychic catalyst. The collective mental energy of the community and curious tourists might have, quote, breathed life into the legend, causing a thought form to solidify. Now we're going into a different area. You see how it's like a ripple effect. This whole thing, it just starts this big, and now we've gone out to here, but it goes way out even further. The second would be inconsistency in physical evidence. One of the strongest arguments for tulpa is the lack of biological footprints. There's no remains. Despite decades of sighting, there are no carcasses, no confirmed scats, no clear DNA samples. Nothing comes back as canine or as unidentifiable. Phase shifting. Witnesses often report that the creature appearing or disappearing into thin air or walking into a patch of woods that is too small to hide a 600-pound animal. This suggests a being that isn't fully solid in our reality, a hallmark of a manifested thought form. The egregore effect. In Western occultism, a similar concept is the egregore, a collective group mind. Now, this is fascinating. This is seriously fascinating. Because Wisconsin has such a deep rooted history of folklore, from the indigenous legends to the Manitous to the pioneer ghost stories, the land itself might have a memory. We were talking about that as well, the stone tape theories. When modern people experience stress or high emotion in these geologically active areas like the iron-rich soil of Bray Road, they may inadvertently tap into that ancient memory, casting the image of a beast onto a landscape like a cinema projector casting an image onto a screen. It's kind of like if you think it, it will come. There's a lot of belief in manifestation is wishing it to be. And people don't realize how powerful that the mind is, and in a collection of many people doing the same thing. Does it become real? Can that energy actually produce this and make it so? Well, it's room for research. Adaptability of form. Chalupas are often described as being slightly off or changing appearance based on the witness's expectations. Some see a classic werewolf, and others see a bear dog. Some see a creature in a shredded suit. If it were a single biological animal, it would look consistent. If it is a tulpa, it can take the shape of the witness's inner fear, known as the unknown predator. So basically, if it was a dog man, specifically, everybody's going to be seeing a dog man, but that's not what's happening. So does it prey into somebody's worst fear? These people are just so terrified. It's like, what scares them? And then all of a sudden, this. But different people are imagining it being in different ways of what most it frightens them or what they most picture it as being. And these are the forms that it's taking to that particular person. So, it really, the more you research it, it takes on the form of a tulpa, really almost kind of like more than almost anything else. So, which kind of goes into the tulpa trap. That's what it's called, a tulpa trap. Does it make, by us sitting here talking about just on this particular podcast, just talking about this beast, actually make it more real by feeling it more mental energy? Does that create it easier? It's just the more people think about it, the more it gets seen. What would happen if less people paid attention to it? Would it be seen less? Or would it be seen in a specific way more? It's an interesting concept. The Philip experiment connection. That happened in 1972 in Toronto. A group of researchers successfully manifested. If you guys are thinking, oh, that's full of crap, actually, they did it. It was an experiment in Toronto where a group of researchers successfully manifested a ghost simply by making up a story about him and focusing on it intently. That's that that's pretty cool, really. Cultural projection. Why a werewolf? Why not a dragon or a ghost? Does the rugged wooded landscape of Wisconsin demand a canine protector predator in our collective psyche? Or are you just expecting that it would be something like that? Being out in the woods, it would be something wolf-like because they're very prominent there, but just something very, very large into a wolf type of an animal. Is it just what you're expecting, or is it what you're manifesting? Um, but it's an interesting way that it fits in with the stone tape theory. The tulpa trap is a mind-bending concept that serves as a perfect meta moment. It suggests a dangerous cycle. The more we investigate, the more we document, and the more we broadcast a legend, the more physical and real that we are making it. So the more we talk about it, the more likely there's going to be more sightings. The more we talk about it, it doesn't go away. Does that mean if we don't talk about it ever again, it just ceases to exist? Probably, because we all know scary stories are made up by the story being told over and over and over again, but it changes. Remember, people can say one thing in the very beginning of a conversation, it's not going to be the same thing at the end of the conversation. Is this how this is changing? Or is it really what we're imagining it? What's going on there? So let's go into this. This is how this actually occurs. Okay. Like I said, this is a ripple effect. It's so cool because it just gets more and more and more into it. The trap works as a self-reinforcing feedback loop. You can break it down into 3 stages. Stage 1, the seed, the local legend. We all know the local legend. It starts with a few isolated, perhaps misidentified sightings, such as the strange dog or a shadow. Somebody saw a bear and it stood up and it's like, oh, I just saw it, which happens all the time. So these stories start circulating and then you start getting larger than life. Again, they're changing now. Stage 2, the catalyst, media and attention. A reporter or podcaster gives it a name like the Beast of Bray Road. Now, thousands of people have a specific mental image, which would be a 600-pound werewolf, to focus on. Okay, now it's like, okay, there it is. Just because everybody is saying that that is what's going on, now it's preying in on your fear factor, fear for your family, fear of going out. Oh my God, what if I see this thing? How am I going to react? Now all of a sudden it's becoming more personal to you because now it's something that can threaten you. It can threaten your family. Then we go into stage 3, the manifestation. Then this is the trap. The collective psyche energy, the collective psychic energy of the public, fueled by fear, curiosity, and constant discussion, reaches a critical mass. The thought form, which is the tulpa, gains enough energy to manifest physically. New witnesses see it not because it was almost always there, but because the collective mind put it there. Think about that. I mean, as they say, if you think it, it will come. The observer effect encrypted research. In quantum physics, the observer effect states that the act of observing a situation necessarily changes the situation. The tulpa trap is the paranormal version of this. By pointing a camera or a microphone at Bray Road, we are observing a monster into existence. The trap is that once a tulpa is created and fed by the public interest, it can become an independent entity that is very difficult to unthink. How many times have we seen pictures and we all say, my God, you can get a picture of a planet a billion light years away, but you can't get a clear picture of something that's 20 foot away from you? Come on. They're all over the place. Something that moves in the shadow of a tree automatically becomes, oh, I just saw a pixie or whatever is in there. No, it's not. But because your mind is thinking that that's what you saw, that becomes for real. That is what you saw. And then everybody else starts looking at it going, oh, she's right. That's what's in those trees. And now all of a sudden, they're in there. They weren't there before, but they're there now. And now people start going through the woods and they're all looking for the pixies. Oh, look, there's in that tree there, which was actually a leaf or a twig moving in the wind, is now a pixie trying to fly off of a branch. But they all saw it because that's what it was. No, it wasn't. I'm not saying that it wasn't there, because in their mind, collectively, it was there. So how a lot of these things can be created. It's actually being created. So, it, and you have to sit back and think. I mean, exactly what I'm doing right now. Is this part of the problem? Because I'm doing a podcast on this and we're talking about this. Isn't that what potentially keeps it going? Right? So, but I mean, it's a real situation out there. So, and it's not just on the Beast of Bray Road. My gosh, no, it's hundreds of other things. I mean, Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Yeti. Oh my gosh, how many thousands more? Could they be real? Of course. Could they be a collection or a collective mind that people have put there and become real? Yeah. Like I said, Debbie's think tank. It just makes you, this is a think tank making you think. All right. So, real word comparisons. There's, we're talking about other phenomenon here. Think about it. Slender Man. Slender Man's a good one. It was a character created entirely by the internet in 2009. Within years, people worldwide began reporting real sightings of a tall, faceless man. This is often cited as a modern accidental tulpa. There was never such a thing as the Slender Man. It was created. They got on there, they created this story because it was an assignment to create a story. They did, and it became larger than life. And now all of a sudden, all these people started seeing the same thing. It was never there. They created it. They made it up. They even said, we made this up. This is just something that this was a story that we created. But it had already taken off by then. The Slender Man was just a story that became real. The Philip experiment. As mentioned before, this 1970 studies proved that a group could create a ghost through focus. The trap occurred when the ghost starting to give information the group hadn't even consciously invented. GZDR forever. Gisder. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means, but it's pretty cool anyway. If we function through a series of electrical impulses, do you think the surgeon? I think that, yeah, we just mentioned that one, data centers. Yeah, okay, so we've already mentioned that. Okay, so basically it's just getting just that collective mind, the collective mind that is all thinking on the same thing, literally creating this kind of like, if you think about something long enough, you can create a hallucination in your own mind. I'm sorry, it's my dog. He's whining. I'm trying to ignore him. You guys just ignore him too, because he likes attention. Anyway, I had him outside and he came back in. Um, but it's actually a created entity brought on by the energy of people thinking about this. The mind is extremely powerful. It's extremely subjective. It's extremely powerful. Now let's look into the fear factor of it. Remember when I was saying, oh, it becomes real when it could affect you, it could affect your family, your children, your parents. Tulpas are said to feed on strong emotion. Fear is one of the most potent fuels available. If a podcast creates a sense of dread or excitement in its listeners, that energy essentially broadcast. So that's what we're doing. It's being broadcast. It's being broadcasted out. In a geologically active area like Wisconsin with its limestone and iron batteries, the land might act as a giant antenna, picking up that listener's energy and printing the beast into the woods. It's very possible. Again, we're going back to the stone tape theory. So many things around us collect energy. I don't think people are aware of how many things, almost everything out there collects energy. It's to what degree? Does Okay, so your tree collects energy. Grass collects energy. Chances are the tree is going to really be more effective in placing. They're huge, but you got to think about, is it a transmitter, is it a receiver, what can it do? Can it do both? Can it just do one? Limestone, iron ore crystals are known to be transmitters. They're known to be it. It's just got that fascinating ability that they can do that and project it, actually project it. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. This is the Philip therapy, all right? This is totally cool, actually. It's called the Philip Aylesford. That was his name, Philip Aylesford. The researchers didn't look for a haunted house. Not at all. It's not what they were trying to do. They sat in a room and invented a persona. They talked about it. We're going to have him do this. We're going to have him that. They gave him a full biography to ensure their collective focus was unified. So they created this person, personality, everything about them that they could think of, and they all agreed this is this person. This is what he looked like. This is what he acted like. They were all in agreement. This was the person they were thinking of. They decided Philip was an 18th century English nobleman who was unhappily married to a cold woman named Dorothea. He had a secret affair with a Romani girl named Margot. When Dorothea found out, she accused Margot of witchcraft. Philip didn't defend Margot, so she was burned at the stake, and Philip eventually took his own life in despair. Okay, this is the fact. None of this was true. Philip never existed. Margot never existed. Dorothea never existed. They are all inventions of the story that they were creating. None of them were real in real life. For months, the group sat in a circle and tried to visualize Philip. Initially, nothing happened. They realized they were being too formal, so they changed their tactics. They dimmed the lights, sang songs, surrounded themselves with pictures of old manor houses to call to him. Suddenly, out of the blue, the table began to vibrate. Then a distant rap was heard on the table in response to a question. Well, so then this is the result of what happened through all of that. Philip began to communicate regularly through table tilting and raps, one for yes and two for no. The entity perfectly, to a T, matched the personality that the group had invented. He was aristocratic, moody, and clearly knew his own fake history. The table would often move around across the room on its own or even levitate, despite the researchers' hands barely touching the surface. So it's taking a physical as well as mental, it's taking on these characteristics. Whenever Philip was asked a question about something the group hadn't invented, like the name of a specific person he might have known, he would become confused or even stop responding. He was the perfect mirror of their collective imagination. That's a trip, isn't it? But it just goes to show you, and this was actually done, and this was actually recorded. If a small group in Toronto could make a table fly by focusing on a fake nobleman, imagine what decades of collective fear from an entire region can do. And every time they repeat these stories, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And you put that into effect for years and years. This is what it takes. It takes on its own entity. So the collective script, it's called the accidental Philip. On Bray Road, the script isn't a tragic nobleman. It's a terrifying, upright wolf. Instead of 8 researchers in a room, you have thousands of people driving that night on a road. Hearts are beating out of their chest. They're scared as can be. Eyes are scanning the tree line, and they are expecting to see that beast. They know it's out there. They're expecting to see it. The manifestation. Is the Beast of Bray Road just a Philip that got out of control, a thought form that became so energized by local dread and media coverage that it no longer needed a circle to appear? That's a lot of people thinking about the same thing at the same time in the same area. If Philip could be brought around by 8 people, what could thousands of people, million people, what could they create? And how dangerous could it actually become? Kind of makes you think. Now, there's the glitches in the experiment. The Philip experiment actually produced physical anomalies. The group reported that the air around the table would grow cold. The table itself felt electrified to the touch. This aligns perfectly with the geological connection that we have explored, where physical energy, which is electricity and magnetism, and mental focus meet to create a glitch in the matrix. Remember, we've talked about that too. So here we go. What are we doing? We're doing that ripple effect. It's reaching out. It's reaching out to all these areas, and all those combined together can create an anomaly called the Beast of Bray Road, or whatever of whatever. That's how these things can occur. The transition is key because it shifts from a controlled lab setting to the dark, isolated cornfields of Wisconsin. It takes the abstract science of the Philip experiment and makes it personal and terrifying. So, if 8 people sitting in a quiet Toronto room could create a ghost out of thin air, you have to ask yourself, what is happening in the dark stretches of Walworth County? In the Philip experiment, the entity stayed in the room, but on Bray Road, that room is miles of iron-rich soil and ancient limestone. If the land itself acts as a battery, as in the stone tape theory would suggest, then the collective fear of 1,000 drivers isn't just staying in their heads. It's being recorded and amplified and played back over and over and over again. But for people like Lori and Drizzy or Scott Bray, this wasn't a thought experiment. It was a physical, breathing creature with glowing eyes and the smell of wet fur. So let's go back here. To make the tulpa theory feel real, you can examine the classic sightings through new lenses. So let's go back. When you discuss Lori and Drizzy's 1989 sighting, you got to see that she didn't just see a dog. She saw a man wolf kneeling by the road. The tulpa link is, in the Philip experiment, Philip acted exactly like he was designed. Does the beast look like a werewolf because that is the template our culture has for a nocturnal predator? Think about it. Whenever you see the werewolf, he's very typically the same. This is what he looks like. So that's what you're seeing. The glitchy physicality. Witnesses often describe the beast as having a strange, choppy way of moving, almost like a film or a glitch in the matrix. During the Phillips sessions, the table didn't just move, it moved in a way that defied physics, often sliding without friction. Many Bray Road witnesses claimed the creature covered ground faster than biologically possible or fades into the tree line rather than running into it. The kneeling behavior. One of the most bizarre cases of the Bray Road files is the creature holding food with its front paws or kneeling like a human. This is a very human trait for a monster. Is it possible the creature displays these traits because the humans imagining it are subconsciously protect, projecting their own anatomy onto the beast? Dogs don't kneel. Last thing I had heard, werewolves don't kneel. But the Beast of Bray Road kneels. Okay, now we're going to bring this a little bit closer to home. Remember, I told you we were going to go into this. How about a deep south comparison to the Beast of Bray Road? How about, have you ever heard of the dogmen of Northwest Florida Panhandle? That's where I'm living at. Is the energy of the Florida swamps with its own unique geology creating its own version of Philip? I think so, because that's been something that has been told for centuries up here. And the Philip experiment proved that if its attention is being fed by the people who are talking about it. And you never know. Who knows? Maybe up in Wisconsin. If you are living up in Wisconsin, let us know how this goes for you. Sorry. Didn't mean to make life hard for you there. But it would be interesting too. So, Northwest Florida, Panhandle, has its own window area, and the Dogman report here is fascinating that the southern contrast to the Beast of Bray Road. While Wisconsin has cornfields and glacial drifts, the Panhandle has the Apalachicola River, it's right down the street, and the dense pine scrub, and a subterranean world that mirrors the geological battery theory perfectly. If you're looking to bridge these two, here's how the tulpa trap and the geology play out so perfectly here. The Panhandle's geological storage. Just as Wisconsin has its limestone, the Panhandle sits on the Floridan aquifer, which is one of the most protected and ancient carbonate rock systems in the world. Karst topography. Northwest Florida is riddled with sinkholes. Got one right in the backyard. Springs. Got one in the backyard. And underwater caves. Got one in the backyard. In paranormal theory, moving water through limestone creates a constant flow of electromagnetic energy. And I swear, you can feel it on this land. Just like a lot of places up here, mine is no different. The Ghost Forest Connection. Locations like the Rodman Reservoir or the Ocklawaha, although this is further south. See how the land remembers when the water levels drop. Ghost forests of petrified trees emerge. They are so cool when that happens. This imagery, bleached bone-like trunks in the mist, is the perfect environmental template for the mind to manifest a creature. I mean, it's like something right out of a movie when the water levels get real low because of the aquifer, and especially over here in at the Mill Creek where they got the lake out there. Um, it can get really low, and you see those stumps start coming up, and it's just It's super cool. It's kind of eerie, but it's super cool. And you can very, very easily see how these entities can appear because it's the perfect environment. Unlike Yeah. Unlike the Wisconsin beast that's often seen kneeling by rows, the Florida dogman is frequently described as a stalker. It's seen darting between pines at lightning speed or standing perfectly still behind a tree, barely visible. If the Wisconsin beast is a manifestation of werewolf cinema, the upright man beast that we're also familiar with, the Florida dogman often feels like a manifestation of the unseen hunter. In a region where hunting culture is deep seated, the collective mind might be projecting a super predator, something that can out hunt the hunters. Now, the dog man up here is very, very, very popular and very well known. The Panhandle has a cultural layer. Wisconsin lacks the French Acadian influence that traveled down the coast. The legend of the loup-garou, which is the swamp werewolf, has been part of the Gulf Coast's psychic soil for centuries. If the community has been told for 200 years that a wolf man lives in the swamp, that thought form is already been half built. When modern witnesses go into the woods with ghost tube or a camera, they aren't starting from scratch. They're plugging into a 200-year-old battery. The story's already been told. They're just carrying it on. That's all that they're doing. So when there's when you're looking at the comparison of it, as what I'm looking here is the primary terrain is farmland and glacial drift. The um, the Dogman has pine scrub and karst swamps. As far as the geology goes, the beast has iron ore and glacial stone, whereas the Dogman has limestone and high water table. The behavior of the beast is scavenging roadside kills, stuff like that. Whereas the Dogman, he's stalking and he's a woodland guard, hiding behind trees. And of course, the cultural seeding of the beast would be modern media and news, whereas the Panhandle Dogman in Florida is ancient swamp lore and the loup-garou. So we'll just kind of finish this up and we'll say that local economy of fear. We talk about the Philip experiment as a lab study, but here in Northwest Florida, we have the aquifer experiment. Every time we tell a story about a figure darting through the pines or a pair of eyes reflecting in a sinkhole, we're sending down energy into that limestone. We are feeling, we are feeding the loup-garou. So is the dogman of the Panhandle a biological cousin of the Beast of Bray Road? Or are they both just different prints coming off of the same psychic press, one fueled by the cornfields and the other by the blackwater swamps? Um, Northwest Florida, the dogman isn't just a transplant from Wisconsin. It has deep roots in the Panhandle and a unique mix of swamp lore and modern high strangeness. If you want to bring the tulpa and the geological battery, you have to have the right local lab to work with. These go into the Bellamy Bridge, the story of Elizabeth Bellamy, and that's surrounding the swamps of the Chipola. Um, exactly a kind of a window area. It's the same thing. The the Swamp Dogman template. Um, Standing by sinkholes, riverbanks, the aquifer battery, the tulpa overlap when people go to Bellamy or the Chipola swamps at night. They're already in a state of high alert. A lot of these are basically going into the whether it's the tulpa of the swamp the of the dog man, or whether it's of the beast, it all fits the same. It all fits the same scheme of things. So just remember, what you think and what you believe is stronger than you think. And if a whole bunch of people get together and you all think the same thing, if you think it, it can come true. As scary as it sounds, it's not impossible. And it happens a lot. So, talking about a think tank, that's something to think about. Sometimes we've got to be careful what we think, just like we have to be careful with what we say. Not trying to put bad vibes out there or anything, but we're all responsible for our own thoughts and our own feelings and what we say and what we do. But just know that sometimes it can get out of control. And could this happen? I'd say it already has, and it's nothing saying that it can't happen again. It can happen tonight. All of a sudden, someone's going, oh, I saw him. Yeah. But it's something to think about. It's something to really, you can relate on things that have happened with you yourself. What was your state of mind at the time? What were you thinking of at the time? Did something happen? Was there a catastrophic, or was there a trauma event that you were so thinking about, or that you were in a trauma state about, and then that occurred that night? Could it have had something to do with it? Where were you at? What was the terrain like? Were you in a forest? Were you standing beside your house? Where were you at the time? What's the local terrain? All this has something to do with it. All is connected. So that's a heavy one to put down on you. It's a lot to think about, but you know what? That's what I'm kind of known for. Is let me just throw this on you and see how you handle that. Sorry. So everybody, thank you for coming on to Spooky Things with Debbie. And just want to give you another reminder, as I always like to, that we have our Paracomic Con coming up on September. No, I'm sorry, in August the 8th and the 9th. It's going to be in Enterprise, Alabama. And that's a Saturday and a Sunday. We're going to have some great guests there: Keith Age, Ken Gerhart, um, oh my gosh, Michael and Destiny Fox, Lee Triana, Terry Brown. Um, oh, there's just so many of them. Jatin Patel, the redneck, he's so funny. I love Jatin. He's just so much fun. He's always got things with him, critters. You never know what he's coming up with. Robert Mukes. He's in Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. Robert Mukes. Richard and Colleen Johnson. They're actually, I think they're even going to be doing a workshop this year at the Paracomic Con about paranormal, and how to do paranormal research. Keith Age, the rock and roll ghost hunter, is going to be there. He's been in quite a few shows on TV as well. Blaine, I love Blaine. Blaine Rohan, he's been on quite a few of shows himself, and so many more coming up. Oh, Ken Gerhart, of course, he very renowned cryptozoologist, has been on several shows of his own, and he is definitely, there's an expert. Ken's an expert. Michael and Destiny Fox will be there. Um, she's a medium. He is a demonologist, and the work that they put out is just really some good stuff that they put out there. So that's just giving you something there right off at the top. So we're looking forward to it coming up August the 8th and 9th. Hope that you can make it there. Everybody tune back in next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We're going to have something else for you to think about. You guys take care, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.